Behind them this afternoon, they were at home to Leyton Orient, who travelled to the Victoria Ground second in the table.
Stoke looked as if they might have blown it this afternoon. Ricky Otto putting Leyton Orient in front in the 53rd minute. With just 3 minutes left, Stoke looked down and out. Carl Beetston crashed the ball against the bar, but Mark Stein popped up to head home the rebound. And then, with just 1 minute left, Stein was on hand again to score his 12th goal of the season. Stoke 2, Leyton Orient 1.
Well, Stoke are now beginning to mount the kind of run that most of the pundits expected them to. Steve Foley nearly got them off to a flying start as well. His shot coming off Farnworth and then the post. But they did take the lead very early too, 14 minutes. Mark Stein involved in the build-up rather than the finish. And John Butler, the fullback, at the far post, steaming in, virtually unseen, certainly unchallenged, and it was 1-0. Their second, Lee Sanford, rising above everyone in the box, and they were 2 up and looking very comfortable. In the second half, though, Preston got themselves back in the game, and early on too, 4 minutes into it, when 2 former Stoke players, Tony Ellis and then Aaron Callaghan, put them back in it at 2-1. They then sought the equaliser, but sadly only with 10 men. Watch out for Lee Ashcroft on the far side. He's the Preston number 7, very disenchanted with the linesman's decision. Must have said something a little untoward. One can only imagine it was not, "I don't agree with you, linesman." And after referee Alan Flood had had the attention drawn to it, his decision was a red card, and Preston had 10 men for the remaining 28 minutes. Not surprisingly, it was Stoke who then dominated the remaining 28, and maybe should have got a third, but for the heroics of Lee Fowler on the line. 2-1, Stoke worthy winners.
Thanks, Alistair. Great defending. Great defending. 2-1 the final score there. Chester Bolton now. Both sides have been struggling, and of course Chester manager Harry McNally denied a vote of confidence by the board yesterday. It finished.
And the Potteries soccer sellout. Hello once again from the 1992 Motor Show at the National Exhibition Centre. If you're thinking of
Gleghorn from Birmingham and Dave Regis from Plymouth, and both could make their debuts in tomorrow's Potteries derby against Port Vale. The match is already sold out, and both teams are confident they can continue their winning ways. Gleghorn's goals were instrumental in achieving promotion for Birmingham last season. This against Cambridge in the Anglo-Italian Cup recently proved to be his last. His arrival, along with that of Dave Regis, increases Stoke's already impressive scoring ability, highlighted by Mark Stein's 12 goals this season. Manager Lou Macari is now hoping for some impressive returns, starting in tomorrow's big match.
There's 3 combinations possible on Saturday. We'll draw, we'll win or we'll lose. There's going to be no shock either of them. There's no pressure on you. You want to win. There's going to be a terrible disappointment if you don't win, but the other team's coming here to win as well. But I would think if we give it our best and we get about the pitch and we look as if we're desperate to win, then I think we'll win.
No new signings for Vale, but they too have scoring ability, with Ian Taylor one of their current leading lights. This was the goal which beat West Bromwich Albion, success in another big game.
I mean, like the Albion, that was the biggest game I've ever played in. I mean, this is the next one now. This will be the biggest game after the Albion, so I am looking forward to it. Hopefully I can stick one in.
Rivalry is very high and intense in this town, so it's an important match for us, but at the end of the day it's only 3 points. I'm sure that Lou and myself would probably sacrifice a win on Saturday if we got promotion.
Well, the Wolves themselves to help their husbands and sons. They've arranged a protest march through Stoke-on-Trent on Sunday.
Stoke City has splashed out.
2 new players on the eve of their Potteries derby, with Port Vale in front of a sellout crowd tomorrow. Nigel Gleghorn from Birmingham City and David Regis from Plymouth have cost £100,000 each. Both could play tomorrow. It's an evenly matched derby game, with Stoke in 7th spot, Vale just 1 place behind them.
BBC Radio Stoke, the voice of sport.
Anticipation is rising on the eve of the 31st League Potteries derby between Stoke City and Port Vale. A sellout capacity.
These are tough times in the Potteries. 1 in 10 out of work, 7,000 jobs on the line if 2 local pits close. Yet there's not a ticket to be had for a second division match that will pass unnoticed everywhere else. BBC Radio Stoke has even produced a special souvenir magazine, lasting proof that sport can elevate a community even in its bleakest hour. Stoke City found that earlier this year, an Autoglass Trophy win at Wembley, the highlight of their season. They know all about Pottery's pride too, going back to the days when Stanley Matthews wore the red and white of City before managing neighbours Port Vale. The man currently in charge of the Victoria Ground is no stranger to little local difficulties.
It means a lot to the supporters, obviously, of both teams, and I know when I played in them, I think 2 or 3 nights before the game, I couldn't sleep with the thought of not winning that match and upsetting so many people. And in this town, I think it's important that our players, and I'm only interested in our players, obviously, that they do realise the importance of the game.
And what of Port Vale, relegated last season, yet now fairly sprinting through autumn with just 1 defeat in the last 11 matches? It's a side of some quality with a sprinkling of new blood. Manager John Rudge almost lost his job last year when Vale were on the skids. He survived and can now laugh about his ability to avoid the sack.
Keep dodging the bullets. That's what, keep ducking and diving as quick as you possibly can. Now, I've been here 13 years now, and I've been manager 9 years, and probably Cloughie and Joe Royle have probably been at the club longer than me.
For one day anyway, the worries over pit closures and unemployment in Stoke-on-Trent can be brushed aside. Local football pride is now at stake, and thousands here in the Potteries will either be laughing or crying in their beer come tomorrow night. There's another local derby,
which was played in front of a crowd of 24,500 at the Victoria Ground. It's taken Port Vale some time to get their season together. One reason for their success, though, Ian Taylor, raw in every sense. The good work setting up Paul Kerr. That was the top corner and no problem. The equaliser a minute later for Stoke captain Ian Cranson, a high looping ball which left defender and goalkeeper clawing at fresh air. But what else but controversy to settle a local derby? Russell's ball released Stein. Port Vale felt aggrieved. Stoke were elated, but the referee's the one who matters. This marks Stein's 13th goal of the season, and Stoke go fourth. Well, meantime, as West Brom's early season fizzed.
TV game. The draw has guaranteed one of the region's non-league sides a second-round tie.
They travelled to Burnley with an outside chance of going top. Phil Mepham, watch this one.
Stoke dominated the first half and might have had more than their 2 early goals. Before their first, Carl Beeston hit the post from Butler's cross. And then, from the resulting corner, Graham Shaw's header was somehow deflected over the bar. But Shaw then scored twice to put Stoke deservedly in command. His first came after 21 minutes, the result of a swift break and 2 convenient rebounds. 15 minutes after this came his second of the game and only his 3rd of the season, but it was certainly one to be proud of. In the second half, Stoke were content to hold their lead. It finished Burnley 0, Stoke 2.
Well, a late penalty in last week's Potteries derby ended Port Vale's run of 4 wins on the trot. Could they get back?
It'll mean a sellout crowd of 24,500 at the Victoria Ground, with Vale looking to avenge their league defeat here last month. When hair was slick and boots were brown, the Potteries created its own soccer passion. The crowds may be smaller these days, but little else has changed. Tonight's game is the Potteries Cup final, with the rest of the country hardly able to work up much enthusiasm. Here it's a game that'll produce big money and a big crowd. Once again, Stoke City have home advantage. They beat Vale here in the League 2-1 just 3 weeks back. In fact, the men in red and white have met Vale 3 times in the FA Cup and won all those games. Tonight, those in the Vale camp are looking for revenge.
You want to win every match you play, but this is special for us. Special for the supporters, special for the players, obviously special for the Potteries people. It's a great game again, the first round of the Cup. I mean, there'll be a lot of people talking about this for years to come. How many times are you going to get Port Vale and Stoke City drawn together in the FA Cup?
Both clubs have had their fair share of cup glory over the years. In 1988, as 1,000-to-1 outsiders, it was Vale putting out Tottenham. Terry Venables couldn't wait to make a quick getaway. Last season, Stoke City were Autoglass Trophy winners at Wembley. Their support never ceases to amaze their manager.
Before I came to the club, I was elsewhere, obviously, and I kept looking at the attendances that they got, and as the results got worse here, the attendances seemed to get bigger. I couldn't understand it, but now that I've been here, I just realised you've got a regular support of 10, 12,000 that come win, lose or draw, they keep coming back. And I think that is a rarity in football nowadays.
And tonight's game being given special treatment by BBC Radio.
May tonight it's Stoke on top of the second division with a 2-point lead. They're on an impressive run. It was the sort of afternoon where only the keenest fan would venture out. Those who braved the driving rain and howling gale rewarded with 4 goals. The first a pinball affair, ending when Ashley Ward put the bottom club Blackpool ahead. But Stoke, unbeaten in 13 league games, bided their time and drew level 4 minutes later. Great skills from Graham Shaw, nice touch from Kevin Russell. Shaw again for the second, setting up Mark Stein. As defenders closed in, the division's leading scorer slid the ball past goalkeeper Martin, his 16th this term. The final word was Russell's, his second of the afternoon, merely emphasised the gap. Stoke a top, Blackpool a bottom, both likely to stay there.
Outrage over council cuts, family accused of schoolgirl murder, and soccer fans run riot.
Last night when rival supporters clashed before and after the FA Cup tie between Port Vale and Stoke City. Thousands of pounds worth of damage was caused to a new stand at the Port Vale ground and at nearby pubs.
Just 4 weeks ago, Port Vale opened the new stand that was formerly positioned at Chester City's old stadium. The total cost of the project was £500,000. But last night, supporters of neighbours and fierce rival Stoke City caused extensive damage after Vale had beaten Stoke 3-1 in an FA Cup first-round replay.
Oh, I'm very saddened and very disappointed after a terrific night all round for everybody. It was a good game of football, good atmosphere, everything was right. I think it's something you accept in football today. It's a very, very minority element that's caused this trouble. And I just hope that we can eventually remove them from the football and get the genuine football supporter coming to the club.
After ripping away metal sheeting, supporters used remaining debris to throw at rival fans after the game. The surrounding area was affected too. This public house, a listed building, was also extensively damaged. It's further evidence that hooligans are still disrupting local communities using football as their excuse.
It's not as bad as it used to be a few years ago, and I think we now, or the police are now getting on top of it with the videos, and the safety of grounds have been come about since the Lord Justice Hale's report. We're certainly on top of it, and it's certainly reducing, but the element is still there.
And what about the culprits?
Well, the culprit's obviously on police video, and they told me this morning they're hoping to identify them and make some arrests in the next few days.
The damage to Port Vale's new stand runs into several £1,000s. Mr. Bell believes that in spite of police evidence, it's the club who'll be forced to bear the cost.
Andy Knowles has plenty of action to reflect upon.
Yes, Port Vale fans are today celebrating their first ever FA Cup victory over their local rival Stoke City after last night's 3-1 success in their first round replay. But their moment of triumph has been soured by trouble off the pitch, as Alan Towers reports.
The trouble came on a night that should have left an unblemished memory of thrilling local football. Stoke supporters at the Hamill end pulled away metal fencing at the back of the stand, recently built at a cost of £500,000.
Well, once again, it's a very small element of hooligans we unfortunately have still got in football. And it's not the genuine football supporters. They come here basically or any ground to cause trouble, and this is the result.
Do you have a simple message to the people who caused this damage last night?
Yes, just leave it and let's have the true football supporters back in the grounds. Please keep away.
But last night, 20,000 fans were entertained to a thrilling, sometimes physical cup tie. In the torrents of rain, deftness of touch was a rarity, but Steve Foley's tackle on the Vale defender Neil Aspin looked not only ill-timed, but dangerous. Foley's flying foot caught Aspin on the shin. He limped off. Foley wasn't booked. But the fierce rivalry was, for the most part, contained. It was Lee Sandford who put Stoke ahead as the Vale defenders looked on. It's been 36 years since Vale won against Stoke, but was all that about to change? City's jubilation was wiped out a minute later as Martin Foyle hit Vale's equaliser. And it looked as if honours would be even at the break, but 2 minutes into stoppage time, Andy Porter's left foot shot put Vale in front, 2-1 at half-time. The Stoke substitute, Dave Regis, had just come on, but was instantly out of luck. The mud did Vale's defending. But in the end, this was to be Martin Foyle's night, a copybook finish in the last minute and a well-earned 3-1 win for Port Vale.
Well, the lads have always had a good spirit there. We were very disappointed with last season, which personally